Okay, the magic machine tells me that I'm live. Let me know whether you can see and hear me. Welcome to the live stream. Hopefully it'll go well. There won't be any technical kerfuffles or anything like that. How is everybody? What's the weather like where you are? It's 14 degrees centigrade here, and it's going to be slightly sunny. So just give me a check-in, people. Middle-aged geek girl is not here today. She's currently down in the Latrobe Valley house sitting for her sister. But we got her here in pillow form. Hi, Ralph. How you doing? Hi, Patrick. Hi, for sale. 44 degrees and partly sunny in Fahrenheit. Yeah, that's not what you want. You want lovely warm weather. So, yeah, I'm going to be clocking the Golden Globe Awards today because, to be honest with you, I haven't done a lot of prep for this live stream because over the last 2 days, yesterday and the day before, I've driven about, what is it? I'm just trying to work it out. About 1,400 kilometers. I drove a cell out to the Latrobe Valley to house sit, which is about 400 kilometers. And then yesterday, I went to South Australia for the morning. I drove all the way across the state of Victoria to South Australia, went to Mount Gambier. I've got a video in the bag for the Travel Channel where I'd show you some really groovy things over there. And then I drove back, but on the way back, and you need some context for this. Victoria, the state in which I live, currently has 38 active bushfires. Big bushfires. One person, unfortunately, has lost their lives or life, and there's a whole bunch of damaged houses and things like that. Lot of smoke and fire around. On the way back, I got diverted on coming back because of bushfires and bushfire smoke. So I had to go 100 kilometers out of my way. And I went through 50 kilometers of dense bushfire smoke, had the vents shut on the car. I went through the smoke for 50 kilometers. Visibility got down to less than a kilometer at one stage. But I went through a few towns, went through Ballarat, came home, nice and sunny here. But it was all a big thing. So, hi, Dick. How you doing? Yes, me and Sally are okay. Sal's in the Latrobe Valley. She's not here unless she hooks into the live stream remotely. But yeah, Ralph said, looking forward to the travel video. Sorry about the fires. Yeah, I did see, I was up on a ridge and I did see one of the fires, the smoke rising from one of the fires and not flowing over us. I thought I had a plan because the way I went over to South Australia, I was kind of threading a very broad needle. I had like 200 kilometers either side of me where there weren't really any fires. And so I went and threaded the needle down the middle. But on the way back is when they closed down a whole bunch of roads. So, yeah, that was an interesting day yesterday. And the day before was kind of interesting as well. By the way, I've got my dirty chai latte to sip while I'm working here. Hey, Luna. Luna's here as well. Jill's here somewhere. But yeah, so I've got, I think it's about 10 days all up where Sal's away. So I've got to do this stuff for myself. And I will be going to the movies a few times. I'll be getting a couple of extra travel videos done, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, Luna, yeah, Dick says, yeah, Luna's here. So been very, very busy. Last night I just crashed heavily. I just went boom, got some food, and just hit the hay. But I'm feeling much better today. I'm feeling better than I thought I would. Yeah. So I haven't watched any movies over the last 48 hours or so because it's all been. At one stage, I was kind of thinking, felt like Kowalski in Vanishing Point, just fanging it along a country road, not being where I wanted to be because I was on the diversion then, heading up towards a place called Ararat. But yeah, I mean, we all do that, don't we? When something slightly out of the usual happens in our lives, we find parallels in movies to what we're doing. And that's kind of fun too. That's another way that movies entertain us. is you go, okay, I'm driving along a windy mountain road, perhaps. And the first thing you think of is Rosanna Brasi at the start of The Italian Job. We're geared that way in movie buffs. Hey, Dog's Dad. By the way, the pillow on your left is a bit disturbing, just staring at you. Yeah, no, I've put it there that way deliberately. How close were the fires to us? About 200 kilometers. About 154. Now, how far? Well over 100 kilometers anyway. The Harcourt fire, which is the one took out a whole bunch of apple orchards and houses, is about 150. The one to the east is about 120 kilometers. So they're well away from us. But we did get a bit of bushfire smoke a couple of days ago, which makes for beautiful sunsets. But I've actually got what they call the Vic Emergency app on my phone, and it will alert me if anything gets anywhere near us. It's not likely. Even the grasslands are like 2 kilometers away from us. So unless something happens in an urban area, it's not really going to affect us. But we're very aware of it. And I was very conscious that I didn't want to be seen as being like a disaster tourist, because the places I went to were well away from the fires. And I had planned for maybe a week to do the trip to Mount Gambier. And so I made sure, I mean, I must have looked at the app 5 or 6 times before I went on the road trip. And it was only purely by happenstance that the way I came back had road closures and I had to divert. Hey, Deb, how you doing? Yeah, I've been watching Deb cooking. She puts stuff she cooks and food prep she does on her Facebook. I don't want to dump people onto her Facebook because that wouldn't be right. Just know that Deb does some fantastic cooking. Dog's Dad says wildfires here in North California are concerning too. Yeah. Well, I mean, we've had some very, very catastrophic ones, much closer to Melbourne than these ones are. About 13 years ago, the mountains behind Melbourne were black with smoke and red with fire. And I remember driving over the Westgate Bridge heading west, and the eastern horizon behind me was a wall of black smoke. That's crazy stuff. There's not much we can do except control things and manage things as we can. But hopefully it won't get worse. Ralph says the canola fields and the Bunjil Lookout was a great video. Yeah, I like Bunjil's Lookout. It's not a terribly spectacular one, Ralph, but it's kind of got a vibe about it. It's got this nice rural vibe. I went there in winter, but I've got a vibe that I might not for a video, but just for myself, head up to Bunjil's Lookout in the summertime just to see how it's different. And there's lots of other places around that I can hit for the travel videos. I've got plans, and I've also got. Let me get them out. And the man cave, as you can see, is disorganized, but this is kind of organized. We're walking around a few places, and I've got a whole bunch of tourist information about Melbourne and Geelong and the areas around here. I don't necessarily want to do the touristy stuff, but it's good resources for like getting the historical information and having it here. I really want to show off where I live, in a sense, in a broad sense, like the state I live in at the moment. With the Travel Channel is not monetized. It's not getting the views that will enable it to be monetized yet. But I'm kind of honing my skills on how to make the videos. And I'm also aiming eventually to get it monetized. So maybe when it is monetized, I can travel further abroad. But yes, I haven't watched a lot of movies over the last 48 hours. But I felt like I was in a movie for the last 48 hours. And I looked at my Letterboxd just while I was getting ready for bed last night. And the movies I've watched in 2026 have been crazily ordinary. I'll actually post a link to my Letterboxd for 2026, and people can follow along if they want to. But they're a bit down market, really. But I've kind of enjoyed just picking little bits of movies out. I've still got the same ambition I had last year, which is to watch one movie a day on average. So it's 365.25 movies over 2026. And I think I can hit it fairly easily. It's not an arduous task. But one of the things I want to do this week while Sal is away is head down and use my pass to see a few new release movies at the local cinema. Deb says, yeah, my heart's breaking for Victoria and the fires. 13 years since the Dunelly fires. Yeah, they do hit communities incredibly hard. And they just hit hard when they happen. When the blacks, I remember with Sal and I, hang on, I got to put that forward. There we go. When with the Black Saturday fires here, one of the things Sal and I did, we decided what we could do, and we're of limited means, but we bought a whole bunch of dog and cat food and delivered it to where it needed to get to, because there are a lot of people whose pets needed feeding in those bushfire affected areas. So we got dog and cat food in cans and just gave it to them, which was a charity we could afford to do. Dog Dad says, are the spiders in Australia really that ginormous? Here's the thing that people don't know, or they should know. The bigger the spider, the less venomous it is. Little ones are the ones that are going to kill you. Little tiny things about that big will put you in a box. Big ones, no. I'll tell you a story, though. I was house sitting for some friends in Katoomba, actually no, Falconbridge, up in the Blue Mountains behind Sydney. Beautiful area, beautiful bushland, love the place. And the friends had a light for the outside veranda just outside the back door. So I went out one night because it's nice to sit on a veranda at night time and just contemplate the universe. Went to flip the switch and felt something hairy. And it moved. And I flipped the switch eventually and went out, and there was a huntsman spider with the legs that was about that big. Body was about that big. Freaked me out a bit, to be honest with you, but I knew huntsmen weren't going to hurt me. And I knew the more huntsmen you have around the house, the less trouble you have with the mosquitoes, because they chomp those fuckers really well. So that was my big encounter with a spider. But having the knowledge helps. Having the knowledge of what to do when snakes are around helps. And for the most part, it's common sense. Don't go near them. Don't cross their path. Don't freak out. Just slowly back off from them on the trail and let them go where they're going. Because 90% of snakes aren't aggressive. And the ones that are aggressive tends to be in the tropics, not in the temperate environment where I live. So it's just a common sense thing. And the other thing is too, country outdoor toilets. Just lift up the toilet seat, because occasionally things like redback spiders live in those kind of places, and you can brush them away and get rid of them however you choose to do it. And this stuff gets ingrained into people, and the fear is not going to help you. Being scared of this stuff and kind of freaking out about the natural environment is more likely to screw you up than not. Ralph says, Butcher Baker Nightmare Maker was a surprising film considering the time, and Bo Hopkins' character was a hateful person. Yeah, I really enjoyed Butcher Baker Nightmare Maker. I think I'm reviewing it for the Wednesday video this week, because it's a really good film, and it's a real hidden gem, and this channel is often about hidden gem. Really interesting one from an LGBTQIA plus viewpoint as well. But somebody mentioned it on a live stream, and I made a note of it. And then I found a copy of it and went, shit, this is good. But yeah, so been very busy, and I'm going to continue to be busy. End of the week, we've got, actually early next week, got the nephew turning up. He and I are going to go and see a movie, and then we're going to run down and pick Sal up from the countryside. So yeah, lots of fun stuff happening. The summer season is kicking in just a little bit too late. I forgot to ask you, Deb, what's the weather like in Nipaluna today? I know you guys had a bit of warm weather. Da, da, da. Let's see. By the way, Superchats get the fart gun. Just to let you know, I should have mentioned it earlier because this is a business. Deb says, had a lot of friends caught in the Dunalley fires and took a car load of supplies. Pet food was welcome, but the big thing was car charging cables for mobile phones. Yeah, I can see that. We've actually got a couple of charging cables in the car, and we keep them there deliberately because when I'm traveling, and particularly yesterday, there were times I had to charge the battery for the Osmo Pocket camera, had to keep my phone charged, had to charge the microphone, the little lapel mic that I have for the Osmo Pocket, and having those chargers in the car is just incredibly useful under a lot of circumstances, not just in emergencies. I did listen to a lot of the emergency radio yesterday, and one of the things that people don't think of, and it sounded a bit confronting, is there were people donating bullets to rural people because there were farmers who didn't have enough bullets to kill the damaged livestock from the bushfires. So they were an organisation was pooling the bullets and giving them to farmers on a needs basis, so they can euthanize the animals as required. Yeah, some of them, it's not even the ones that are affected by fire. It's the ones that have fled the fire and damaged their legs and need to be put down and things like that. So there's a lot of this stuff that's not really intuitive about what's required after a disaster like that. And I was listening to country radio. This wasn't Sydney city radio. This was country radio talking about grassroots stuff that people need in this kind of emergency. Deb says, with respect to new releases, I went to Nouvelle Vague last Thursday with a friend and we had a great time with that movie. Thanks for the recommendation. My pleasure, Deb. Nouvelle Vague is just such a great film. Blue Moon as well. I think I've kind of worked it out. I like Blue Moon a little bit more than I like Nouvelle Vague, and I like both of them really a lot. Hi, Doug. Finally met my baby granddaughter last week. They live overseas. Gorgeous. Congratulations, Doug. Glad you got to bond with a family. It's always a cool thing. Dog Dad says, Starbucks, I thought you had a more cultured palate. Here's the thing, Dog Dad. The only thing I get from Starbucks is a dirty chai latte with an extra shot because there's a bit of chemistry going on there. I like the chai flavor, and the chai gets rid of the horrible taste of the Starbucks coffee. It still gives me the hit, still gives me a vaguely coffee taste. But there's some chemistry going on when you make it into a dirty chai latte, where you put the shots into the chai that knocks that burnt flavor from the Starbucks coffee. So if I'm traveling, I got one yesterday as well for the road. If I'm traveling, a dirty chai latte from Starbucks is the least offensive Starbucks. And this morning, after having done all that travel yesterday, I really couldn't be asked making myself an espresso. I'll make one after I finish the live stream. But for the most part, this is medicine. Deb says, weather in Nipaluna is sunny with an expected top of 23. There's storms expected. Have to take Kitsum to the vet later this morning. Okay, well, I hope everything's okay with you. Forsale says, Starbucks coffee tastes like they added chemicals to it. Yeah, I think it's basically, here's the thing with Starbucks coffee, as far as I know. And I've done a little bit of research. The beans they use aren't really great, and they tend to over roast them. So they end up with a burnt flavor, and a lot of the nuance of whatever the bean had is lost. And that's a pity because we go around to Starbucks and just get a cheese and ham toasty and sit there and maybe do some notes for a video or for whatever project Sal's doing. It's literally around the corner from our house. And there's not a lot that's around the corner from our house. So we can go and sit in the nice cafe there. I usually just get a bottled water and something to nibble on. And you can actually get some work done there, away from the distractions of all the black mirrors we've got in the house. Deb says, just a checkup, not an emergency. I'm glad to hear it. Doug says, Starbucks never really caught on here in Adelaide, all closed down. Yeah, they closed down a lot here too. But this one around the corner is a nice, vibey cafe. Leaving aside the quality of the coffee, getting a snack, getting a bottle of water, sitting in the cafe is kind of cool. It's local. It's easy to get to for us. It's nice environment for research. And yeah, even though my videos often sound chaotic, I do some research for them and I do make notes. And it's good to be able to just sit around the corner in a little cafe and do the admin and do the notes and the bullet points and things like that. Our one around the corner burned down. I don't know whether it was deliberately lit, but it burned down and it was in ruins for about 2 years. And just last year, it had been rebuilt and redesigned. And it's a much more vibey cafe than it used to be. Dog's Dad says, is there an Australian coffee house chain that's good? We tend to have just individual cafes that are good. I mean, there are coffee roasters in a lot of cafes in Melbourne. There's St. Ali down in South Melbourne, which I took our friend of the channel, Armin, to when he came over from Germany. St. Ali has among the best coffee in the world. There's a whole bunch of other smaller cafes that hit really well in the Melbourne CBD. There must be 100 of them. Down by Flinders Street Station, there's a lot of them. It tends to be individual ones. Chains, not so much, but individual cafes. I mean, I find individual cafes here. There's a place down in Werribee called Notorious Espresso, which is a cafe that does halal breakfasts and things like that. Their coffee's really good. There's about 3 or 4 of them in my local area that are good. There's occasional food trucks that do good coffee, but we don't tend to lean toward chains of coffees. Hi, Renee Shambara. Australia has an excellent coffee culture. Yeah, it does. We do fantastically well. My coffee beans that I get sent to me come from South Australia, where I was yesterday. A place called Robe, and the coffee place is called Mahalia Coffee. They roast their own coffee there on the limestone coast of South Australia in this little beach town. And the lovely thing about Mahalia Coffee, apart from the fact that coffee is really good, is they do free postage. And I've got every fortnight I get a couple of bags of coffee from them. And the coffee is fantastic. We actually drove over to South Australia to visit their cafe. And it's a lovely little cafe. But ever since the pandemic started and I was looking for a way to get coffee when we had lockdowns, Mahalia Coffee just hits. It's really great. Deb says, yep, I'm going to see Blue Moon when it comes out here. I think I'll love it because of my background in musical theatre. It's also incredibly witty. Blue Moon is one of the wittiest, sharpest movies. It's got Margaret Qualley in it. It's got Andrew Scott. It's got Bobby Cannavale, who's an honorary Australian because he's married to an Australian, Rose Byrne. And Ethan Hawke is fantastic in it. Vanessa Chambara says, my big challenge was to find a good filter coffee rather than espresso-based drinks. That's just my personal preference. I have a Cuisinart brew machine that takes a central place in the kitchen. Yeah, Americans tend to like filter coffee. But here, I mean, I've got an espresso machine here with a grinder attached. It does great, but it's a little variable for some reason. Maybe it's the way I'm tamping it and all that kind of thing. And Luna is outside now, and she's just climbed up onto the neighbor's roof over there. But when I make it perfectly, when I get all of my ducks lined up making my own coffee, there's nothing as good as that first coffee of the morning. Deb says, Robe's a lovely town. I grew up further up the coast in Victor Harbour. I like Victor Harbour too. It's got that horse-drawn tram that goes out to the island. Yeah, I like all of that part of South Australia, all the way up through the wetlands and things like that up north of there. South Australian coast is fantastic. And I don't like the South Australian coast all the way up to Port Augusta. I've done the whole lot. Really should get to Adelaide again, capital of South Australia. Great foodie town, and I know some lovely good people there. Doug says, I love a good cafe, and we have one that's also a bookshop. Another one which unfortunately closed was a former brothel in the 19th century. Great. I like the vibe of a former brothel. In case people don't know, sex work's been legal here in Australia for the last 30 years or so. And so there's no kind of moral weight given to brothels and things like that. In fact, one of our brothels used to be on the Australian Stock Exchange, a place called Daily Planet. Renata Chambara says, I got a taste for brewed coffee in my first job in an oil refinery, but I like the ritual of making an espresso. I agree. I love that ritual. The first thing in the morning, you hit the tamper, clean the portafilter, load it up in the grinder, tamp it down, screw it onto the brew head, make the espresso. It's comforting in a weird way. How's middle-aged geek girl's health these days? She's doing okay. She's off by herself in the Latrobe Valley house sitting with a little Jack Russell called Jack. Yes, things are doing well. Doug says, if I get to Adelaide, the coffees are on me. Thanks, Doug. Appreciate that. I will get to Adelaide at some stage. I don't know when. It depends on finances, and finances are always tight. But I do want to get to Adelaide again. And there are some cheap flights, I'm noticing, because I'm on Skyscanner for no good reason. And I can get a flight to Adelaide for like $89. And I know so many good people there. And also, the thing people don't mention about Adelaide is fantastic small goods. They're kind of cured meats in Adelaide are god tier. Up in Harndorf, up in the hills behind Adelaide, they've got German heritage there. And they do fantastic schnitzels and small goods and things like that. Foodie culture in Adelaide and the environment is just pow. Deb says, I've got an Italian stovetop espresso pot. Love it. Yeah, mocha pots are good. I'm hopeless at making them work. I think because I only bought small mocha pots, I should buy a chunkier one. But I don't mind the espressos from a mocha pot. They're kind of fun. But yeah, it's food. I think we got off on a tangent. 4 Stars says, I'm waiting for to see 28 years later, the Bone Temple, 4th entry in the series. Yeah, that's got a good vibe. I like the world building in 28 years later, and possibly 28 years later, the Bone Temple. The world building is kind of cool. Horrible, but cool. And they're not scared to go out on a limb, as the end of the previous 28 years later will show you. Vanessa Chambara says, started watching 24 for the first time since I was screen with my dad. It hits different now. I'm sure it would. Yeah, the vibe is different. It's like watching The West Wing now, and you realize how bloody utopian The West Wing was. And 24 and The West Wing, find a lot of copies of them in op shops now. I've got all of The West Wing on DVD. Yeah, Deb says, get a 6 or 8 cup mocha pot. I will. And the thing, I know where to go to get it too. Up in Brunswick Street in Melbourne. It's Brunswick? No, it's on Sydney Road. There's a fantastic Italian supermarket which has the best pasta, the best Italian small goods. It's got a licensed section so you can get all these Italian liqueurs. And they also have really good quality, cheap mocha pots. I really should fang it over there at some stage and get one. Does anybody else find that ethnically specific supermarkets are always a lot more fun than any other supermarket. The Asian supermarkets I go to, the Korean supermarkets and the Chinese supermarkets and the Japanese supermarkets and the Italian supermarkets and the Greek supermarkets are always much more fun to shop in. Renesas Chambara says, also with the mocha pot, it takes a while to cook in. Don't clean the patina on the inside. Deb's watched the first episode of season 2 of The Night Manager. Really enjoyed it. I didn't get into The Night Manager. I probably should. But I'm still recovering from pluribus at the moment. People want me to start with the Golden Globes because I'm doing it differently. With the nominations for the Golden Globes, which are being announced today, our time. It'll be later today, our time. I'm going for the ones that I want to win. I'm not going to go for the ones that are worthiest to win, but I'm going for personal bias on them. So do people want me to start that now or leave it till a bit later in the live stream? I'm happy to go either way. As the actress said at the orgy. Vanessa Chambara says, I thought The Night Manager was good storytelling given it's not a proper John le Carré story, unlike season 1 of The Night Manager. Okay. Let's see. I wonder if I'm getting an ad because chat has suddenly frozen. Go for it, says Patrick. Golden Globes Police's Force. Okay, here we go. So at the top of the chat, you'll see there's a link to where you can follow along with what I'm watching and what I'm looking at, which is the Golden Globe nominees 2026. We're going to start with Best Motion Picture Drama. And the nominees are Frankenstein, Guillermo del Toro, of course, Hamnet, Chloe Zhao's Hamnet. It Was Just an Accident, which is a foreign language film I don't know much about. Sentimental Value, which I think has Elle Fanning in it, if I'm correct. Sinners, Ryan Coogler. And The Secret Agent, which I was supposed to go to a preview of here, but I got busy. What am I going to think? I think I've got to pick Sinners. Sinners is just such a breakthrough film. Ryan Coogler is the GOAT when it comes to a certain kind of movie. And I like the fact that he's created his own thing rather than relying on a previous IP, the way he did with the Creed movies. Sinners has got that bravura juke joint scene, which was such a gutsy movie and has paid off. And Ryan Coogler, in about 29 years now, from now, owns all of the rights to Sinners. He will own every single bit of the rights. So I'm going with Sinners in that. I liked Frankenstein. I haven't seen the others, but I hear The Secret Agent is worthwhile, and I'm looking forward to seeing it when I'm able to. And I'm kind of looking forward to seeing Hamnet as well. Yeah, Renesas Chambara says Sinners for the win. Yep, absolutely. I think Sinners, I've got it on 4K now, and I'm very happy I managed to get a 4K of it. I think it's a movie that's worth that. Best motion picture, musical or comedy. We've got Blue Moon, Begonia, which I want to see. I haven't seen it yet, but I will see it. Marty Supreme with Timothy Chalamet. No Other Choice. Nouvelle Vague. And One Battle After Another. This is a tough one. There's a lot of strong movies here. As I said, I haven't seen Begonia, but I've seen 3 of the 6. I really like One Battle After Another. I think it's a great movie. I think the cinematography in it is just so good it'll make you come. Nouvelle Vague I love because it's about making movies, and I love the French New Wave. I'm going with Blue Moon. Blue Moon, I think, does a lot in a contained environment. It's all set at Sardi's restaurant And I just love the sharpness of the dialogue, the wisdom of the human interactions in it. It's something really special, and I totally love it. Russia Champara says, I was tempted by Nouvelle Vague. No other choice is yours. Your choice in that. Sentimental Value was directed by Joachim Trier, Stellan Skarsgård starring. Going to see it later this week, I think, says Deb. Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen it, so I can't judge, but Blue Moon for me, I mean, the ad for Blue Moon keeps coming up on my YouTube ads, and it's the only ad I sit all the way through because I just love that dialogue. It's so crisp and wonderful. I am going to get Blue Moon and Nouvelle Vague when they come out on physical media. I really think that one director making two movies like that in 1 year has got to be a personal best. They're just fantastic movies, worth anything they get as far as awards are concerned. Let's continue. Best motion picture animated. Why is an Avatar in this? Arco, which I don't know anything about. Demon Slayer Kimetsu no Yaiba, Infinity Castle. That is getting big hits from a lot of movie critics. Elio, which I think is a Pixar movie, which didn't do much business, but the reviews were pretty good. K-pop Demon Hunters. I loved K-pop Demon Hunters. Really enjoyed that. It's just so over the top cool, and I think the underlying story is solid as well. Little Emily or the character of Rain. I don't know anything about that, but I know a lot of people like it. Zootopia 2. I do know some furries in real life. And the furries I know, this is their movie. And they love it. And I'm really happy for them. But Zootopia is not a movie I loved a lot. But Racing Shambara says Demon Slayer Kimetsu no Yaiba Infinity Castle is in the animated section, but I respect the cultural impact of K-pop Demon Hunters or Zootopia. I'm going to have to go for K-pop Demon Hunters. I do want to see Demon Slayer. I also want to see the Chainsaw Man movie because I've seen some of the episodes of Chainsaw Man, and that's full on my kind of anime. We're out of dirty chai latte. Anyone want to go around the corner and get me another one? D. says, hi, I've never heard good things about it. It was just an accident. I've heard good things about it. It was just an accident. Yeah, the vibe on a lot of these movies. I read a few reviews on things. I try not to let them influence any reviews I do. But I've seen a couple of reviews of it was just an accident, which intrigued me. Deb says, K-pop Demon Hunters was a lot of fun. It was. Sally knows all the songs to it. It was really annoying because I watched K-pop Demon Hunters with her, and she started singing the songs. And much as I love her, she cannot hold a tune. She could not hold a tune in an iPod. And I kind of had to ask her to not do it while we were watching it because it was taking me off out of the movie. Next one, best motion picture, non-English language. It was just an accident. No Other Choice from South Korea. Sentimental Value from Norway. Surat from Spain. The Secret Agent from Brazil. The Voice of Hind Rajab from Tunisia. I don't know enough about these ones. I haven't seen any of them. So I'm not going to judge any. I'm not going to say which one's best. I'm just saying I love the diversity of the nominations here. You got France, South Korea, Norway, Spain, Brazil, Tunisia. I think that's a good range. That's any awards that does things that broadly is doing well with them. Renaissance Chambara says, toss up between No Other Choice and The Secret Agent for me. Fair enough. I'll respect that one. Yeah, so I'm going to move on because I'm sure the nominees are great, but haven't seen any of them. Best performance by a female actor in a motion picture / drama. Eva Victor in Sorry Baby. Jennifer Lawrence in Die My Love. Jessie Buckley in Hamnet, Julia Roberts in After the Hunt, Renate Reinsve in Sentimental Value, Tessa Thompson in Heather. Again, I haven't seen any of these ones, and it's probably stupid of me to do this, but I'm hearing good things about Jessie Buckley in Hamnet. I'm hearing good things about Tessa Thompson in Heather, which is an adaptation of Hedda Gabler. Don't like Julia Roberts, so yeah, I'll leave that one. And chat, let me know what you think. Dilly says, I've seen a number of those. Blue Moon and No Other Choice, definitely before Bugonia. Okay, that's reasonable. Deb says, I know nothing about It Was Just an Accident, but keen to see No Other Choice. Yeah. I mean, that's the lovely thing. I think I'm right in this. And I don't always say that I'm right, but I think the richness of the movies that we're seeing now and the really depth of movies that we're seeing now owes a lot to the pandemic and the lockdowns, because these scripts are written years before they're ever put on in front of a camera. And so they've had longer to brew. They're not rushed through. The writers have had time to work on them in isolation and in an environment where they can follow their instincts. And so we're now reaping the benefit of lockdown writing. And I like that. I like the fact that we're getting such a rich diversity of movies. I mean, even something like Eddington, which directly references the lockdowns, is a beneficiary of that. D. says, I've seen Little Emily. It's wonderful. Cool. Renee Chambara says, male options would go for Michael B. Jordan for Sinners, but with so many good performances that they'd be equally able to nominate. Ralph says, nice to see so much original stuff too. Absolutely, Ralph. I agree. Let's have a look. So I'm not going to really go with anybody on the female performances. Male performances, Dwayne Johnson for The Smashing Machine. Dwayne Johnson trying to recover from Black Adam. Jeremy Allen White, Springsteen, Deliver Me From Nowhere. Joel Edgerton, Train Dreams. Michael B. Jordan, Sinners. Oscar Isaac, Frankenstein. Wagner Moura in The Secret Agent. I'm going to be parochial here and go with Joel Edgerton. He's been doing good work for years. And Joel Edgerton, being an Australian actor, I've seen him do so much good stuff over the last 5 years or so. I really think he should get a Guernsey. Dwayne Johnson is just making The Smashing Machine because he wants to change his image. I don't think he's got the depth to be able to really carry a character role that well. It's more, and the makeup just put me out of it. Relationship says, I'm thankful we haven't hit any Marvel universe so far. I mean, there has been good acting in Marvel movies. I'm not going to try to pretend there isn't. I think they're a different kind of movie than the movies that tend to get nominated for these kind of awards. And I'm fine with that. I think everybody can have their own playground. Delete says there are some good foreign language ones not in there. Maybe they'll get him next year. That's possible too. I think we've got to remember that with these kind of awards, when they come out affects things, and we don't always know when they come out whether they're eligible in any particular year. But we'll see. Best performance by a female actor in a motion picture, musical, or comedy. Amanda Seyfried in The Testament of Anne Lee. I'm hearing good things about that. Chase Infinity, One Battle After Another. I think she's great. First movie role. And she's standing toe-to-toe with Sean Penn and Leonardo DiCaprio and Benicio del Toro. I think Chase Infinity is an actress to watch. Cynthia Erivo, Wicked for Good. Fantastic. Emma Stone, Begonia. Emma Stone does great. Kate Hudson, Song Sung Blue. A movie about people who do Neil Diamond imitation gigs with Hugh Jackman in it as well. Rose Byrne, If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You. I'm hearing such fantastic stuff about Rose Byrne in If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You. Haven't seen it. Of the things I've seen, I'm going to go with Cynthia Erivo for Wicked for Good. acting through green face makeup. She does fantastic in that movie. The range of emotions are totally there. So I'm going with Cynthia Erivo on that one because I've seen it. Still haven't seen the original first movie of Wicked, but I've seen the second one because we were there for Sal's birthday. But the original Wicked's on streaming, so I can pick it up at any stage. Ralph says, I've been seeing Prime Ads for Wrecking Crew with Jason Momoa and Dave Bautista. I'm intrigued if the action isn't too CG. Yeah, that might be fun. I mean, I always like Bautista. I think Bautista is one of those action actors who can actually act. And I like what he does with things. Dealey says, no other choice takes something that anyone who has been desperate to get a particular job may have thought and take it to the extremes. Yeah. That recognition of inequality is becoming a big theme in cinema over the last 3 or 4 years for very, very good reasons. And there are a whole bunch of different movies that are addressing that in different ways these days. Here we go. Best performance by male actor in a motion picture, musical or comedy. Ethan Hawke, Blue Moon. George Clooney, Jay Kelly. Jesse Plemons, Begonia. Lee Byung-hun, No Other Choice. Leonardo DiCaprio, One Battle After Another. Timothy Chalamet, Marty Supreme. I like Clooney as an actor. I don't know. I haven't seen Jay Kelly, and I'm hearing mixed things about it. I've yet to see Begonia, but Jesse Plemons is an incredible actor. Lee Byung-hun, I've seen in a number of things. Leo is great in One Battle After Another. Chalamet is an interesting actor, but I'm going with Ethan Hawke in Blue Moon. He really nails it. It's just such a... I mean, he's playing Larry Hart, part of Rogers and Hart, the musical writing team. And his Larry Hart is cringy but endearing, and tragic but funny. He hits so many notes with that portrayal of Larry Hart. And the dialogue is fantastic. It's just a choice movie. So I'm going with Ethan Hawke on that one. Renaissance Chambara says, for the men, I would go with Ethan Hawke despite my love of No Other Choice and Lee Byung-hun's role in it. Ethan Hawke in Blue Moon is just incredible. They're playing a much smaller man, and they use a number of tricks to portray him as a smaller guy, because Larry Hart was quite short. Mickey Rooney played him in a movie called Words and Music in the 1940s, which kind of whitewashed his sexuality and a number of other things. But Words of Music I recommend because it's got things like Mel Torme singing Blue Moon and Judy Garland and Mickey Rooney singing I Wish I Were in Love Again. It's just choice all the way. But the whitewashing of Larry Hart's nature and his issues makes it a little bit silly. Let's go. Best performance by a female actor in a supporting role in a motion picture. Amy Madigan in Weapons. Haven't seen Weapons yet, but I've watched Amy Madigan's career over decades, and she is really, really good. Ariana Grande, Wicked for Good. Elle Fanning, Sentimental Value. Emily Blunt, The Smashing Machine. Inga Obsdotter Lilias, Sentimental Value. Tiana Taylor, One Battle After Another. I think I'm going to have to go with Amy Madigan for Weapons, even though I haven't seen it. I'm hearing great things, and she's got such a history of doing great roles that didn't get a lot of love. Ariana Grande is good in Wicked for Good, but her Botox limits the way her face expresses things, which I find a problem. Emily Blunt's been doing good work for years. Tiana Taylor's really good in One Battle After Another, but it's a very small role. So I'm going with Amy Madigan on that one. Amy Madigan steals the show, says For Sale. Yeah, Amy Madigan has really done so much good stuff over many, many years. Like she started in the 70s. That's one bottle down. But again, it's hard to pick because there's so much good stuff. Best performance by a male actor in a supporting role in any motion picture. Adam Sandler and Jay Kelly. Benicio del Toro, One Battle After Another. Jacob Elordi, Frankenstein. Paul Mescal in Hamlet. Sean Penn, One Battle After Another. Stellan Skarsgård, Sentimental Value. Sandler I don't like. I'll be honest in my bias there. Benicio del Toro is great in One Battle After Another. He nails the seriousness and the comic aspects of the character. Mescal in Hamlet. I haven't seen much with Mescal in it, but I want to see him in Hamlet. Sean Penn in One Battle After Another is fantastic. His character is just so loathsome, and there's a real sense of menace about the character. Jacob Elordi in Frankenstein nails it. I love Jacob Elordi in this movie, but I'm going with Sean Penn in One Battle After Another because he creates a scarily believable monster in the character he plays, Lockjaw. It's really give you the creeps. If that guy got on a train carriage, you get off the train carriage. It's that level of menace. So I'm definitely going with Penn in that one. Renee Chambara says, Penn is so underrated as an actor. Yep. Deb says, I wasn't keen on weapons, but Amy Madigan's fabulous. Absolutely, Amy Madigan is one of those people whose career just keeps chugging along and who hasn't got enough oxygen. But so that's that. Best Director Motion Picture, Chloe Zhao for Hamlet, Guillermo del Toro for Frankenstein, Jafar Panahi, It Was Just an Accident, Joachim Trier, Sentimental Value, Paul Thomas Anderson, One Battle After Another, and Ryan Coogler for Sinners. This is a genuinely tough one. I like Chloe Zhao's work. I actually liked her in Eternals, a Marvel movie. I like what she did with it. And she made it feel very un-Marvel in so many ways, which is why it pissed off a lot of people, but it didn't piss off me. Guillermo, I love his sensibility about making monsters passionate and compassionate is interesting. I really like The Shape of Water, for instance. Does a fantastic job. Frankenstein, all the money's on the screen. The look of it is fantastic. Haven't seen it was just an accident. Haven't seen Sentimental Value. Paul Thomas Anderson, One Battle After Another. That car chase in One Battle After Another is as good as any car chase in any movie ever. It really does a fantastic job. The change of focus, the use of shallow and deep depth of field, all of that stuff really works incredibly well in that movie. And Sinners, as much as it's a strong thing, I'm going with Sinners. I think Ryan Coogler does something special with Sinners. The magic realism when it enters the movie during that juke joint scene was such a gutsy move, and it could have gone either way. It could have been laughed at, but it wasn't. It was embraced, and everybody went, yeah, that is so tonally right for this movie. D. says, Lee Byung-hun was excellent in NOC playing something against type, but I agree Ethan Hawke does an outstanding job of being the bitter ex. Ethan Hawke does more than the bitter ex. He's just whimsily romantic, but not necessarily sexually interested. Boomer Duck says, loved Amy Madigan and Uncle Buck. Amy Madigan's been doing so many good films over the many, many years. Sorry, I've got a cushion going rogue here. Let me move this stuff away. Be gone. Yeah, but good year for directing too. It's just crazily interesting. And it would have been nice if there was more than one female director in it, to be honest with you. But I think Chloe Zhao, she's still got a long time in her career, and I hope she does many more things. And I do want to see Hamlet. Let's see. Next up, best screenplay motion picture. Chloe Zhao and Maggie O'Farrell for Hamnet. Jafar Panahi in It Was Just an Accident. Joachim Trier and Eskil Vogt in Sentimental Value. Paul Thomas Anderson, One Battle After Another. Ronald Bronstein and Josh Safdie for Marty Supreme. And Ryan Coogler for Sinners. I'm going to go Paul Thomas Anderson because One Battle After Another is adapted from a Thomas Pynchon novel, which is not an easy gig. And I think it gives such a revolutionary vibe about it, and the way it speaks to contemporary concerns in so many ways, it works. And there are just so many vivid characters in that screenplay. There's Leonardo's character. There's the one played by Chase Infinity. There's the monstrous Lockjaw played by Sean Penn. There's Benicio del Toro's underground revolutionary character. There's the creepy white guys who are in the cult. I think I like it because it punches upwards. And so I think I'm going for Paul Thomas Anderson, One Battle After Another this time around. Deb says, loved Amy Madigan in Carnival. Yeah. Two unrelated Del Toro's up for award, says Dealer. Yeah. The Bulls are running. It's the running of the Bulls. But, yeah, again, a strong field there. Best original score. I'm going to skip that one. I don't know enough to speak. Best original song. Going to skip that one too. This is a weird nomination. Cinematic and box office achievement. Avatar, F1, K-pop Demon Hunters, Mission Impossible, The Final Reckoning, Sinners, Weapons, Wicked for Good, Zootopia 2. I don't know what this one's measuring. Cinematic and box office achievement. Is it measuring money? It's hard to know what that is for. But I'd probably give it to Wicked for Good because I think all the money is on the screen. And I like the way it looked. And there's some nice direction in Wicked for Good where the viewpoint for the camera goes in and out of a series of mirrors during one of the songs. Ranesh Jabbar says, box office achievement globally is Zootopia 2. Yeah, I think K-pop Demon Hunters is there, but you can never tell because Netflix don't release their numbers on how much they've made and how many eyes have been on a particular thing. Zootopia 2 for the way it cracked China, says Ranesh Jabbar. Yeah, fair enough. China's movies themselves are doing really well. There was one movie that was released in China that made more money than any other movie on the planet. I forget which one it is, but the Chinese market for cinema is kind of interesting, and Hollywood's only now starting to get a finger hold on it. Okay, let's move on. Best television series drama: The Diplomat, Pluribus, Severance, Slow Horses, The Pit, White Lotus. For me, it's got to be a toss-up between Slow Horses and Pluribus, both of which I love. Jackson Lamb is my guy. We share the same sartorial elegance. But I'm going with Pluribus. I think it's good science fiction, it's good writing, it's good cinematography, it's good direction. It's fantastic acting. Rhea Seehorn in Pluribus inhabits that character of Carol. I love Slow Horses, and I've loved all 5 seasons I've seen so far. But I'm just hanging to find out what happens to Carol in Pluribus. The cliffhanger works in that first season. But if you haven't seen Pluribus, Watch it after you finish the live stream. I don't care if you got to go to work tomorrow. Watch Pluribus. Ralph says Slough House books are excellent. I recommend reading them too. Yeah, Mick Herron's books are great. But I'm definitely going with Pluribus there. Best television series, musical or comedy. Abbott Elementary, The Bear, Hacks, Nobody Wants This, Only Murders in the Building, or The Studio. I've seen a few episodes of some of these. It's either The Studio or Hacks for me. I think I'm going with The Studio. Seth Rogen as a producer, let alone that he's in the series, is becoming a real interesting outlier in Hollywood. He did he does another good series, which has Rose Byrne called Platonic, which I really enjoy. And I've seen a couple of episodes of The Studio. So I'm going with The Studio there. Anybody else have any thoughts? I'll give you a bit of subliminal advertising while we're waiting for that. Rachel Chambara says, I tend not to watch comedies. I think there are comedies that work and comedies that don't work, and comedy is incredibly subjective, absolutely. So we'll leave that one and move on to Best Television Limited Series, Anthology Series, or Motion Picture Made for Television. That's incredibly broad. Adolescence, All Her Fault, Black Mirror, Dying for Sex, The Beast in Me, or The Girlfriend. Black Mirror I love a good anthology science fiction series. I've seen the trailer for Adolescence, and I've seen what other people have said about Adolescence. Dying for Sex, I've seen a couple of clips of that with Michelle Williams. Even though All Her Fault has Sarah Snook in it, and I've been a big supporter of Sarah Snook's for at least 6 years on the channel. It has to be Adolescence, really, doesn't it? Raisa Chambara says Black Mirror. Four Stars says, have you seen any Leon Errol comedy short subjects from the 30s or 40s? Not that I recall. Okay, so I'm going with Adolescence here. Best performance by a female actor in a television series drama. Bella Ramsey in The Last of Us. Britt Lower in Severance. Helen Mirren in Mobland. Kathy Bates in Matlock. Kerry Russell in The Diplomat. Ray Seahorn in Pluribus. It's got to be Ray Seahorn in Pluribus. Horace Chambara says Helen Mirren in Mobland is demented. Cool. But I've still got to go with Ray Seahorn. The way she holds the screen, and there are a lot of scenes in Pluribus where she is by herself and yet conveying so much. Julie says this year marks the centenary of Laurel and Hardy. Okay. Yeah, Ray Seahorn, no questions asked. Best performance by a male actor in television series drama. Adam Scott in Severance, Diego Luna in Andor, Gary Oldman in Slow Horses, Mark Ruffalo in Task, Noah Wiley in The Pit, or Sterling Brown in Paradise. I hear good things about Diego Luna in Andor, even though I don't like Star Wars. But I've got to go with Gary Oldman in Slow Horses. Jackson Lamb's such a complex, sly character, and sly characters are always interesting. Rosa Chambara says Gary Oldman. Yeah, I agree on that. Best performance by a female actor in a television series, musical or comedy. Ayo Edebiri in The Bear, Jean Smart in Hacks, Jenna Ortega in Wednesday, Kristen Bell in Nobody Wants This, Natasha Lyonne in Poker Face, or Selena Gomez, Only Murders in the Building. Selena Gomez is the only billionaire in this list. Love Jean Smart, in Hacks. I'm going with Natasha Lyonne in Poker Face. She brings such a like 1970s grindhouse movie vibe to Poker Face. I think she's fantastic. I love what she does. I love how alternative she is. And Poker Face's scripts have such a density of pop cultural references going back as far as the 1940s that I really, really love it. So I'm definitely going with Natasha Lyonne. Best performance by a female actor in a limited series, anthology series, or a motion picture made for TV. Amanda Seyfried, Long Bright River. Claire Danes, The Beast in Me. Michelle Williams, Dying for Sex. Rashida Jones in Black Mirror. Robin Wright, The Girlfriend, and Sarah Snook, All Her Fault. Haven't seen any of these, but I've seen a little bit of Michelle Williams in Dying for Sex. And I've seen a little bit of Sarah Snook in All Her Fault. So I'm going to go with Michelle Williams. For Sale 100 is right. Who doesn't love Natasha Lyonne? Everybody does. Doesn't matter who you are or what your sexuality is. You gotta love Natasha Lyonne. Got helicopters flying overhead. Is it something I said? Best performance by a male actor in television series, musical, or comedy. Adam Brody, Nobody Wants This. Glenn Powell, Chad Powers. Jeremy Allen White, The Bear. Martin Short, Only Murders in the Building. Seth Rogen, The Studio. Steve Martin, Only Murders in the Building. Martin Short and Steve Martin will split the vote there. Glenn Powell I've spoken about before. I don't think he's movie star level. Seth Rogen. I'll go with Seth Rogen. Nobody likes Seth Rogen, so I'm going to be an outlier there. Best performance by a female actress, supporting role. Amy Lou Wood, White Lotus. Carrie Coon, White Lotus. Catherine O'Hara, The Studio. Erin Doherty, Adolescence. Hannah Einbinder, Hacks. Parker Posey, The White Lotus. I'm going with Parker Posey because I like Parker Posey. I'm going to rip through these. Best performance by a male actor in a limited series, anthology series, or motion picture made for TV. Charlie Humdrum, The Monster, Ed Gein Story. Jacob Elordi, The Narrow Road to the Deep North. Jude Law, Black Rabbit. Matthew Rhys, by The Beast in Me. Paul Giamatti, Black Mirror. Stephen Graham, Adolescence. It's got to be Stephen Graham in Adolescence. Stephen Graham is one of the greatest living actors. He's a chameleon, but he does so bloody well. And I'm always sympathetic for a working class actor. So Stephen Graham in anything is really spectacular. Vanessa Chambara says Stephen Graham's such a great actor. He is. And he can do any accent. He's a chameleon. But he always gives such a grounded performance. Really, there's nobody quite like him anywhere. Best performance by a male actor in supporting role on TV. Ashley White, Adolescence. Billy Crudup, The Morning Show. Jason Isaacs, The White Lotus. Owen Cooper, Adolescence. Tramell Tillman, Severance. Walton Goggins, The White Lotus. I think it has to be Owen Cooper in Adolescence playing the murderous kid. Such a difficult role for a young actor, but he totally nails it and makes it incredibly creepy. I think it would have to be that guy. I'm not going to do comedy specials because they're very subjective again. And then best podcast. So that's pretty much it. Rasha Barra said, Billy Crudup to get my vote despite me liking Isaacs and Goggins. I liked Jason Isaacs before he started wearing a wig. But yeah, I think the Golden Globes for me are much more interesting than the Oscars. The Oscars tend to be industry based, and there's a lot of misinformation, disinformation. You pump enough money into a campaign for an Oscar, and you're more likely than not to get one. I think the Golden Globes are a much more interesting awards thing than the Oscars are. Allowing for streakers and slaps. But I think, and you can find me on this if you want to. 2025 was a fantastic year for cinema. There was just such really interesting stuff coming up. It could be that troubled times create good art. That's one explanation for it, but there are so many other explanations. Relationship Barra says, the podcast a very limited selection. I don't think it fits as a category for the Golden Globes. Yeah, I think it's a little bit of a chum to the new generation media. And yeah, podcasts are variable, but the podcasts I like tend to be, grumpy people sitting around a microphone. So many podcasts, particularly at the high levels, are so overproduced that they have the rough edges smoothed off, and I like the rough edges. Well, I like the way podcasts can build a meme culture within themselves. I mean, I watch a podcast on YouTube called Hysteria, which is two media savvy women who work. One of them has worked in the White House, who talk about politics and stuff like that, and we'll use a C word if it seems appropriate. And they're very funny, they're very wise and very witty, but they're not. I mean, yes, they've got a professional production, but it creates its own meme culture within it. There's a series they have called That Fucking Guy, where they talk about how egregiously horrible certain people in politics are on an individual level and go through the whole history of that person. I like that kind of podcast. Russell Barrow says, I think it's a time of transition rather like the new Hollywood era. I think it will be transient due to the changes in Hollywood and Netflix. Yeah, but I think you also got to consider outliers. I mean, a bunch of hairy guys sitting in a beach house in Malibu created that new Hollywood. It wasn't the studios who created Coppola and Scorsese and Spielberg and Lucas and all those guys, as much as it was they were culturally relevant and were starting to do interesting stuff, and they were outliers. Innovation always comes from the edges. It's not going to come from a big shiny tower in Hollywood run by Netflix or another studio. It's going to be some geezer sitting on his laptop editing a video today, or a woman sitting on her laptop editing a video today. 10 years from now, they're going to be the biggest thing in the world. It will happen, and it won't happen because of studios. Racial Chambara says, my podcast favorite one is Cocaine and Rhinestones. Never thought of the history of country and Western could be so riveting. Yeah, I mean, the secret history of anything is interesting because it's secret. And the things hidden are always more interesting than things revealed. Doug says, the Oscars have lost their shine for me. So many nominations and wins are based around expensive campaigns rather than merit. Obviously, there are exceptions, yeah. The Oscars went downhill for me when Lionel Richie won one for Say You, Say Me, which I thought was a piss poor song. So, yeah, I'm not keen on the Oscars, but I kind of find the Golden Globes more interesting. It tends to be a little more diverse and a little less reliant on the publicity machine. So I'm just going to stretch out a bit. I was sitting in a car for 12 hours yesterday. So I'm just taking a brain break for a few moments. Yeah. So, yeah, I think I might make that an annual thing where I clock the Golden Globes. That was a little bit of fun. I'll keep that in mind for next time around because, that's something I've been thinking of. Money spoils art. Yes, of course, artists need money. that's why they're in the business partly, apart from the fact they need to express themselves. But the oligarchy never improves the quality of art. Race Barra says, does Australia have a version of the Golden Globes and the BAFTAs? Yeah, we have the Logies. And we also have the Australian, the Actor Awards, which are Australian something awards, where Australian excellence is recognised. And very often it parallels with the stuff that's coming out of overseas, because there are a lot of Australians really hitting. And the nice thing about our awards is a lot of First Nations people are becoming culturally important and culturally relevant. Deb Mailman and Rachel Mazza and people like them. And Wayne, what's his name? There's a lot of Wayne Blair. There's a lot of Australian First Nations people that are becoming really culturally relevant in our film, television, plays, dance, a whole bunch of things. So yeah, there are awards, and next time they're released, I might put them into a live stream. Dealey says Oscar Hammerstein III is the only person named Oscar to win an Oscar. Was it Oscar Hammerstein the second or the third? Mr. Isaac will be number 2 at some point. Aaron Patterson's an amazing actor. Absolutely, I agree. Aaron Patterson's fantastic. There are any number. Deborah Mailman is one of our best female actors, and she is incredibly powerful. Yeah, we're so lucky to have the oldest existing culture in the world in Australia. And then there are a number of young Indigenous actors coming up who are really great too. One of the problems with a lot of Australian actors is the really good ones get so good that the money lures them overseas. People like Sarah Snook, for instance, and Rose Byrne went overseas because their excellence drew them to the money. Let me see what I'm going to watch. That's what I should do. I should tell you what I'm going to watch in the next little bit. Racing Barra says, love the Detective J. Swan films and Mr. In-Betweens. Mr. In-Between's fantastic. Mr. In-Between is just so grassroots crime culture. If you haven't seen that series, you should. And I haven't got my list here, so I won't do what I'm going to watch soon. Put a bit of beard gel on. Fragrant up my beard. For Sale says, have I ever been on location where they're shooting a movie or a TV show? Walked past buildings in the city where they've done that, but I haven't been on location where they're shooting things. I'd just trip over a cable and unplug something worth $50,000. I'm clumsy, but it'd be interesting to do. One of the bucket list things is for me to get an IMDb, get on IMDb. Don't know how I would do it, but it'd be kind of nice to do that. Renato Chambara said, I had to buy my Mr. In-Between Blu-rays from a Chinese seller on eBay. Very hard to get here. Yeah, I think they are here, but I haven't seen many of them. I should look it up. Because, yeah, it's worth having a look at. The sun's coming out. Good. Yeah, if you haven't seen the Jay Swan movies, Mystery Road and Goldstone, you should try to pick them up if you possibly can. Fantastic. They play a little bit like modern-day Australian Westerns, but they're very much Australian in their very nature. Doug says, as a kid, I loved the Logie Awards. It was a bit bland for me now. What Australians of a certain age could forget Michael Cole being emotional on TV, or Muhammad Ali reacting to Burton? Yeah, Michael Cole, the American actor, came over and got pissed and got drunk as a skunk. at the awards because they used to bring over overseas actors to give out Australian awards. And never worked. Mostly embarrassing. I think Jay Swan is a Vegemite Western. Vegemite's black, so there's sounds a bit off saying that. It's very much First Nations Western, yeah. Graham says there was a movie I remember watching many years ago on BBC. It's now on Amazon. Long Weekend. Yeah, Long Weekend's great. Long Weekend is an eco-horror Australian movie, which is also about the breakdown of a relationship. Really interesting film. Umbrella have it on Broly, their streaming service, and it's also on physical media. I think it's even got a Blu-ray release. But Long Weekend is really, really, I think the first Australian eco-horror film. I do want to see Primac when it comes out too, speaking of animals. That looks like a bit of fun. Runaway chimp with rabies attacking people. I'd be up for a movie like that. That's definitely in my vulgar pleasure category. Has anybody seen Primac yet? Yeah, but the Logie Awards tend to be, from what I understand, I've known a couple of people who've been at the ceremony. They're mostly an excuse for celebrities to hook up and take drugs, like many award ceremonies. Alexis Barra said, I met more of an icon for foreign food and Oz equivalent of spaghetti westerns. Yeah, I think the Jay Swan things are more indigenous noir in a sense. They have much more of that feel, even though they are set in outback locations. They feel a little more noirish to me than they do Western, though genres are very kind of slippery. Indie Phantom, hey, good to see you. Just watched a film in 2015 called Too Late with John Horst. 5 interconnected stories done in amazing long takes as an awesome neo-noir and instant fame. Okay, I'm going to write that one in. Too Late. Let me have a look. I've got paper here. I've got 37 pens. I'll check it out, Indie Phantom. Too Late. I like long takes. One-ers are really interesting to me because in some sense, excuse me, in some sense they're a stunt to show how smarty pants a director can be. But they're also a lot of fun. And I love the fluidity of a long take. And one-ers, even though some of them are, of course, stitched together from different takes with various kinds of camera trickery. I love a good one-er. Things like the start of Touch of Evil. Best one-er in history. But yeah, long takes. I think long takes are a challenge for actors as well. But I don't think they're a bad challenge for actors. One Battle After Another has some good one-ers in it too. Really wild stuff. And the one-ers in a movie like One Battle After Another work because the fluidity of the direction in those scenes is important to the story being told. It's not just done to be smarty pants the way, say, Hitchcock in Rope was. They're used when they're needed. So what's your favorite one in a movie? What's your favorite long single take in a movie? Graham says BBC made a drama series back in the 80s, The Mad Death, about a rabies outbreak. That sounds interesting. I'm going to have to research that now too. The Mad Death. That's a good title. We don't have rabies here in Australia. Don't have any rabies at all because we're an island and we don't have rabid animals. I mean, apart from certain political parties. Pauline Hanson's party, for one thing. But we don't have rabies in Australia. None at all. We're the biggest continent in the world that doesn't have rabies apart from Antarctica. Must be weird to when you see wild animals in Europe or North America, and you don't know whether it's just a cranky animal or whether it's actually demented. That seems weird to me. But yeah, rabies free, universal healthcare, nothing bad down here, apart from the bushfires. Looking out the window, no bushfire smoke at the moment, though there is a lot of it west of me. Forsar says Victoria in 2015 movie from Germany was shot in one take. That would be crazily difficult. I admire the logistics that any film has. As a disorganized person, which I am innately disorganized, I admire people who can do that meticulous organization, not only to do a one take movie or do a long one take scene, but just to get a movie organized and get all the people together and do all of that stuff. That seems like sorcery to me as a disorganized person. I can only organize myself, and that's marginal at times. So I've got endless admiration for people who can organize enough to get a movie made, or to get a movie made where they do enormous long one takes. Fandom says Victoria was shot on film too, which makes the blocking interesting. Good cameos from Robert Forster and Jeff Fahey. Lots of movie gig settings like a drive-in. Cool. Yeah, blocking something I'm getting interested in too, because I saw a really nice YouTube video about the blocking in one scene in Kurosawa's High and Low, and how it used the blocking within one scene and very limited camera movement to express the power dynamics between the characters in a scene. That stuff is just such a joy to me to kind of discover that aspect of filmmaking. Indie Phantom says, think these ones are great, like the opening scene in the play, which has a similar vibe. Yeah, I like the opening scene in the play. I really should really watch that. It's been hard to get on physical media here, but I found a DVD copy of it, which is good enough quality. So I'm going to drag out my copy of the player and just watch it and enjoy all of the references and things like that in it as well. I really like the player. Movies about making movies are always interesting to me. Things like 8.5, for instance. I love the idea of Marcello Mastroianni making a science fiction movie, and he doesn't really know about science fiction movies. This is the bit of the live stream where I start drinking a lot of water because my throat starts going. I'm not used to talking for this long. Graham says the Mad Death was available on the network label. I think you can still get it, but it's expensive. All of the network stuff started to become expensive because network closed down. But I'll see if I can find a copy online because there's always a possibility. Yeah, those cozy disasters in England always seem to hit in movies and TV series. But yeah, I mean, wonders are fun. And sometimes, I think sometimes the most interesting wonders in movies are the ones where you only realize afterwards that it's a wonder. You're just kind of so immersed in the flow of what's happening that you go, hey, that was the one take. That was really good. And yeah, it's only in retrospect that we realize that a wonder is a wonder. Not Victoria was talking about too late, says Indie Fan. Yeah, sorry. It's hard with the chat. There's multiple conversations there, which I encourage. I'm not complaining about that. But it does make me reading them out a little more problematic. My apologies. I'm going to write down Victoria too. I haven't written that one down. There we go. I've got so much to do. I've got a video for Wednesday to get out. I'm also going to work out what movie my nephew and I are going to see because it's my turn to pick. It's not his turn this time. He picked the Minecraft movie last time. So when Billy comes down, he's 15 going on 16 now. Going to have to find a movie to go and see with him in the cinemas. We did see Late Night with the Devil, which was my last pick. But it'll be interesting to see what I select this time. So I'll have to see what's coming out next week. D. Lee says the scene going into the hotel in Murnau's The Last Laugh was a oneer, I seem to recall. If so, it was excellent. The Last Laugh, I think that's in public domain now. But Murnau's is always interesting. I think I've got, is it Sunrise? I've got a copy of his Sunrise, which I haven't watched yet, but I do want to watch it. But Murnau had an interesting death too. I'll leave it up to you to research the death of F.W. Murnau. 4 stars, can I recommend any portable Blu-ray players? That's difficult because we have different ones here. We've got different electricity here. So I don't know what's available where you are, what's available where I am. Indie Phantom says, Altman is greatly missed. Too Late contains a direct mention of Choose Me, which was a cool Alan Rudolph film that's a bit forgotten. He was an Altman protege. Yeah, Alan Rudolph was interesting. I believe Imprint just released one of his movies on Blu-ray as well. Just let me see if I can find which one it was. I talked about it, but I didn't make a note of it. They did release Mrs. Parker and the Vicious Circle, which Alan Rudolph did. What was it? Love at Large? Was it Love at Large? No, it wasn't Love at Large. Afterglow. That's the one that Imprint released a couple of months ago with Nick Nolte, Julie Christie, Lara Flynn Boyle, and Johnny Lee Miller. And Altman was a producer on that one. True Detective has a great wonder in season 1, says Indie Phantom. I saw series 1. I started to watch series 2, but I couldn't get into it. But I did like series 1. Really interesting thing. I hear series 3 is okay with Jodie Foster in it, but I haven't seen it. And again, there's just so many streaming services and so many different possibilities of watching things that with a limited lifespan, you can't watch everything. It's really, you've got to kind of, will I watch that? Will I not watch that? We always have to make those decisions. I'm going to be back in a little bit. I'll be away from the screen for a little bit, but I will be back. Won't be long. Sorry, I had to take a gentleman break. What else have we got happening? I'll give you a couple of recommendations from my letterbox. Is there anything I want to recommend? Yeah, definitely recommend Butcher Baker Nightmare Maker if you haven't seen that. But let's see. I've got a whole bunch of stuff stacked up on my Tubi at the moment that I haven't watched as well. I did see The Story of Mankind. Has anybody seen that? Which has Ronald Coleman, all the Marx Brothers in it, about the human race being judged by a heavenly tribunal headed by Cedric Hardwicke. And there are a whole bunch of vignettes about human history, about how egregious human beings have been. And the weird thing is, Ronald Coleman plays the spirit of mankind, and Vincent Price plays the devil, essentially, arguing whether the human race should be destroyed or not. And the weird thing is, most of the points that the devil brings up in the story of mankind are fairly valid. He talks about how brutal history is. And watching it, I was thinking, the devil's right. Interesting thing, it's on Tubi, I think, but the story of mankind isn't really weird. Edward G. Robinson isn't in that one. Graham says, I remember years ago in the BBC showed a series of world movies chosen, hosted by Alex Cox. Cool. Indie Phantom says, there's a season before Jodie Foster one with Chris Rock and the actor who's a new blade, Mahershala Ali. Still need to catch up. I hear the second season's not that great, but I've heard the third one is. But the story of mankind is kind of weird and kind of interesting. And it's got a whole bunch of weird characters playing people like it's Cleopatra and a whole bunch of other people. John Carradine turns up as a couple of characters. But I found that one's interesting to rewatch. I'll talk about it more when I do my what I watched this month video. Really should go out to the cinema. Maybe go and see an anime movie, because there are some anime movies showing up at my local cinema. Let me just check. I'll see what the possibilities are. I'll get you guys to decide what I'm going to see at the cinema. It'll have to be my local cinema, which is a multiplex. All sessions. Let's have a look at all sessions. Anaconda, Avatar, Fire and Ash, Five Nights at Freddy's 2, Marty Supreme, Song Sung Blue, The Choral, The Housemaid, a whole bunch of Bollywood films, SpongeBob movie, Search for SquarePants, and Zootopia 2. What should I see? Indie Phantom says, really like the newer Friendship with Tim Robinson and Paul Rudd. Uneasy, awkward comedy like Todd Solondz and early Alexander Payne. I've heard good things about Friendship. Tim Robinson's eyes freak me out, though. Not his fault, but they do. He's also in a newer thing called The Chair Company, I think it is, which I'm hearing good things about. Graham says, watched the 40th anniversary of Labyrinth the other day. Really enjoyed it. Never liked Labyrinth. I mean, middle-aged elf guy, stalking a teenage girl. The optics aren't great from a modern point of view for Labyrinth. I thought it was creepy when I first saw it, but I'm confirmed that it is a creepy movie. What else have people been watching? Let me know what you've been watching. And we might be getting ads on the chat. D-Lee says, saw Fackham Hall the other day. Not bad send up at Gosford Park and the like. I enjoyed Fackham Hall. I saw it at the end of last year. And the jokes land. I think it's funny and silly. And it is a big send up of The Crown and Downton Abbey and all those kind of things. Funny movie. Dick says, go see SpongeBob. Mighty Supreme looks great, says Indie Phantom. Yep. I might do it this afternoon because I can get in this afternoon. Or I might go tomorrow. It's possible. Got no domestic things I need to do. The cats are fed. No, litter box is empty. So, yeah, I can either do that today or tomorrow. But I am going to do Butcher Baker Nightmare Maker for part of the Wednesday video because I really want to recommend that movie with Susan Terrell, who is demented in that film. Really a cool film from the 1970s, 80s, somewhere around then, somewhere in the past. When was it? Let's have a look. It's a good title to Butcher Baker Nightmare Maker. 1981. Directed by William Asher, the husband of Elizabeth Montgomery, who also made the Bewitched TV series. Really freaky little horror film that people just don't seem to know about, oddly enough. Forza, I was watching pre-code movies from 28 to 30. Lots of music and dancing in each one, fun stuff, and a lot more adult content. Not from the point of view of screwing, but a lot more adult in concept than a lot of the postcode movies, which I like. The moral complexity of pre-code films is kind of interesting. So, what are people looking forward to in 2026 as far as films are concerned? Because there is some stuff coming up that I probably will see. There's stuff I'm not looking forward to seeing, but there's a lot of stuff upcoming that might work. Let me get a list up. Let's see what's coming soon in our cinemas. 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple. Definitely want to see that. It's coming out in about 3 days. So I can definitely see that. Hamnet I want to see. It's coming out in 3 days here. Lots of Bollywood movies. Mighty Supreme doesn't come out here till the 22nd. Primate comes out on the 22nd. Want to see that. A Mad Chimpanzee movie is always a good thing. Send Help. That's an interesting one. Find the trailer for Send Help because I like the idea of that movie and I want to see it. Let's see. We Bury the Dead, an Australian zombie movie set in Tasmania, Deborah, is coming out next month. Forsyth says, father, mother, sister, brother. Cool. Graham says, I'm going to cinema quite a lot next couple of weeks, mainly to watch re-releases. Yeah, why not? Do what you love. Let's see what else is coming up. There's The Wuthering Heights, if you're into that kind of movie, coming up with 2 Australians in it, Jacob Elordi and Margot Robbie. That might be a bit interesting. Oh, what else is coming out here? The Testament of Anne Lee, which I hear is kind of cool. The Bride, which is Maggie Gyllenhaal's take on Frankenstein and his bride in the 1930s, with Christian Bale playing Frankenstein's monster. And it's got Jesse Buckley, Penelope Cruz, Jake Gyllenhaal, Peter Sarsgaard, Annette Bening. Christian Bale makes a really interesting Frankenstein's monster. So that's coming out in Feb. Let's see what else we got. Project Hail Mary with Baby Goose in it, based on the novel by Andy Weir. Project Hail Mary sounds like an interesting science fiction film that's coming out soon. Let's have a look here. Not watching that. Supergirl comes out in June. Oh, we'll see that. The Odyssey, Christopher Nolan's version of The Odyssey comes out in the middle of the year. Indie Fandom says, not really sure when it's coming up, but I'm most excited about the sequel to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Yeah, that'll be kind of interesting. D. Lee's been watching It's a Mad World and Hell's a Poppin'. Good choices. Hell's a Poppin' I love. It's a Mad World is like every comedian tumbled together. Graham says, David Lynch movies and the extended cut of The Lord of the Rings never took to Tolkien in any form. When I was at school, they tried to get us to read The Hobbit. But we didn't have enough copies of The Hobbit. So people shared them. And the guy I was supposed to share with, was a slow reader. Never got to read it. And then when I tried to read it as an adult, I couldn't stand it. The writing was just too stiff for me. So I never really took to Lord of the Rings and Hobbity, Tolkien things. They just never hit for me for some reason. Let's see what else I can find coming up soon. There's another version of Sense and Sensibility coming out in September, which, for those of you who don't know, is a sequel to Dumb and Dumber. David Lynch movies, yeah. I mean, I've got to be in the right mood for Lynch. I watched Blue Velvet again on my 4K last year, and I really enjoyed that. It was a good rewatch for me. But yeah, some Lynch movies might be a bit of fun. Anything else coming up soon? The Hunger Games: Sunrise on the Reaping coming out in November. Do we need another Hunger Games movie? I'm not convinced that we do. December's going to be big. December, we've got Avengers Doomsday, which is to some people's taste, not others. Dune Part 3, Jumanji 3, Angry Birds 3. Yeah, interesting stuff. I'm sure the Angry Birds movie 3 is something that everybody is just hanging out for. In 2027, we've got Star Wars Starfighter. Is that the last Starfighter? A Miami Vice movie in August 2027. Man of Tomorrow is coming out in July 2027. The sequel to Superman. Avengers Secret War, December 2027. Batman Part 2 in September. Frozen 3 in November. Yeah, so that's as far as I'm going on that particular list. But I do want to see The Bride. That looked interesting. The trailer for that you should check out. Yeah, one of the things I've got to do this week too is clean up the back room where all the movies are stored, because I'm still cataloguing. I'm up to the letter R in my cataloguing of the movies. and I haven't quite finished that. I'm going to hit a little bit of that after I do the live stream today. So what are you guys going to watch for the rest of the week? What movies are you going to hit between now, say, and the weekend? For me, two of the movies I'm going to watch, I think I'm going to spend a little time in between everything else I'm doing this week. Going back on some old favorites. I'm going to watch The Bad and the Beautiful, Vincenzo Minnelli's movie, and the kind of sort of maybe a little bit sequel, 2 Weeks in Another Town. I'm going to watch those. I may watch them one evening this week. Graham's going to watch Far From the Madding Crowd. It's getting a re-release with Terence Stamp. Cool. Yeah. That's older Terence Stamp movies really hit. Billy Budd's my favorite Terence Stamp movie. His first role, Billy Budd, based on the Herman Melville story. Really hits. It was fantastic. Good cast as well. Peter Ustinov was in it playing the captain of the ship. But Billy Budd is a movie you should watch. Forsyth says, too many kid-friendly movies in my local multiplex, not enough for mature audiences. They tend to be in the evening sessions, and I don't tend to go to evening sessions. But looking at my multiplex, I can go to see Anaconda today, 10:15 a.m. when it's only like 8:52. So I could go and see Anaconda if I wanted, which is kid-friendly in a sense, but it's also comedy. I like the bravery of making a comedy for movies, a comedy movie for cinemas in 2026. Comedies don't do fantastically well at cinema at the moment. And, I like an occasional kid-friendly movie, but during the holiday season, those sessions are packed with kids. But I really should plan out the movies I'm going to watch a lot more than I do. And I probably will for the rest of this month. Okay. Oh, by the way, I'm being interviewed for a documentary. Julian over Collective Creations is doing a documentary of some kind, whether it's going to be on his channel or whether he's going to try to get a release for it. It's going to be about people who collect physical media and why they collect it and what they're passionate about with collecting physical media. And later this month, Julian's going to come here and interview me about my collection and about why I collect physical media. And that's going to be fun because Julian's a nice interviewer. I think he's 26, but he's part of the Cinemaniacs movie collective. And he's already interviewed John Harrison. He's going to interview a bunch of different people about why they collect physical media. And I'm looking forward to that because I've got thoughts about why we collect movies and why people of, particularly my generation, have a different relationship to collecting movies than people who, during the entirety of their lives, have been able to collect copies of movies. Indie Phantom says, I'm going to finally watch the movie Legend for a podcast and an old anime called Wicked City. Watch one called Kite recently, got interested in the genre. Wicked City is good. Legend is funny. Legend has the last two unicorns. And if you watch carefully in the movie, they're both males. So that species isn't going anywhere. Forsyth said, I just put my collection of DVDs in order. 1,100 discs. I've so far catalogued over 3,000 of mine. Not that I'm comparing. It just surprised me about how many I had. Graham says, not sure what's coming out this year, but looking forward to June Messiah. I don't think they're calling it that. They're calling it June 3. because Messiah gets right-wing nut jobs into the mood for pitchforks and torches. But yeah, I really want to get the collection done so I can stack it on the shelves where I want it. And then I'm going to start the winnowing, where I go, am I going to watch that movie again? Is that movie any good? Why did I collect that movie? And I may be shedding some movies as well. I've got a cat underneath the desk now, and she won't come up for a cuddle, will you? No. I like the first Dune movies, Denis Villeneuve, who is going to do the next James Bond film whenever Amazon pulls its finger out. Not sure who James Bond's going to be yet, but I hope it's not a posh actor, because posh actors don't hit for me. But yeah, I am looking forward to the new James Bond film. Hello, Luna. Got to give her a pat. She's just hanging around. She's been fed. She's had her breakfast. We've all had our breakfast. But I'm going to end it here because it's slowing up a little bit. So thanks for being part of this live stream. We really must knock that naughty clock that says it's time to go. It goes so fast. Our time has passed, and we must end our show. Thanks to everybody for being a part of this and for sitting through the Golden Globes thing. Wednesday video coming up. Saturday, Science Fiction Saturdays coming up. Look after yourselves. Watch some good movies, watch some bad movies. Watch a lot of movies. I'll catch you next time.